I was cursed, and from the first mile he followed me through the corn. I say this plain. I didn't have a choice. I walked because the curse pushed me. It wasn't a voice or anything big. It was a pull in my chest and a weight on my legs that went forward, row after row. I started alone. The stalks were old and tall. I could not see past the rows. The sky felt far. The smell of dirt hung on everything. I heard the rustle of corn all the time. It never stopped. Even in the still air, there was a dry sound. Leaves brushing. Ears bumping. That rustle was the only thing that kept me company, and it was the worst thing too. I knew he was there from the first mile. I didn't see him then. I felt him behind me. The hair on my arms lifted. I turned and saw the path I had crushed through the rows. I saw my boot prints in the dust. They were scuffed at the heel in the same spot as mine. I looked down and checked my own soles. Same gouge. The prints behind me matched mine exact. That made me dizzy. I breathed slow and tasted dirt. A few stalks had twine around them. I did not think about it at first. Then I kept seeing it. Brown twine. Knots tight and small, tied around a pair of stalks or a bunch. Sometimes a knot was fresh and clean. Sometimes it was sunk into the leaf and crusted with dry mud. Every time I passed one, I felt my skin crawl. The knots made a pattern, or maybe I told myself that so I could hold it in my head. But it felt like something was marking me. When I moved, I heard the rustle. When I stopped, I heard the rustle. It was always behind. Day came. The sun burned on the tops. I kept my head down. My shirt stuck to me. My mouth dried out. I had a bottle in my pack. I saved it. I told myself I would reach a road. I told myself the field would end. But the field didn't end. I passed a scarecrow with a slumped hat and no face. It was just a burlap sack and straw. A rusted sickle hung by a loop on the post. I needed something, so I took it. The handle was rough and cracked and left a splinter in my palm. The blade had brown on it and pitted steel. It felt bad, but I held it anyway. The scarecrow leaned and watched me with its empty sack head. I walked on. The rustle of corn stayed behind me. I didn't look back for long. When I did, the rows were still and quiet for a second. Then they moved again. I saw nothing in them, but I felt him. Later that day, the rows thinned, and I came into a gap where old farm things lay. The smell of dirt was strong here and sweet and rotten under it like things had been left a long time. A tractor sat half sunk. Red paint had peeled off to orange and then brown. A silo stood beside it with a ladder rusted to the side. I saw it and thought distance. I thought if I got high, I could see him, or maybe see a way out. I climbed the ladder. The metal stung my hands in the sun. It flaked under my fingers. I kept my pack on one shoulder and the sickle on my belt. I pulled and climbed until I was above the husks. The wind touched my face up there. The corn made a sea around me, but it was not soft. It was hard and straight, rows and rows and rows. There was no end to it. No fence. No house. Nothing but fields and more fields. I wiped my eyes with my shirt and set my jaw. I told myself it was fine. Then I looked down. He was already at the ladder. He was too close. He stood under me with his head tilted, and the mask stared up. The eye holes were blank and black. The mask was white in patches and scraped down to gray in others. I couldn't see a face inside. The blank eye holes found me. I felt sick. He reached a hand to the first rung. He did not climb fast. He was careful. He did not speak. He did not breathe loud. There was only the rustle of corn moving around us, like it pressed in and rubbed against the concrete base. I froze with one boot hooked and my arms around the ladder, and the metal bit my forearms. I didn't want him on the ladder with me. I looked to the other side. There was a lip, and then a drop into weeds and stalk stumps. I climbed one more rung and slung a leg over. I grabbed for the rim and scraped my fingers raw. I swung and dropped, and my ankle hit hard and sent a sharp pain up my leg. I hissed and bit my tongue and tasted blood. I stumbled and felt the rustle of corn on my shoulders. I went through a screen of leaves and ran crooked. My ankle held. Behind me, a foot hit the ground. A slow step. The sound was clear, then covered again by the dry noise of stalks. I ran until the sun hung low. I ran until the rustle fell back to what it had been, just at the edge of me. I stopped and bent double and coughed, and dirt came up. I sat on my pack and put my head in my hands. The sickle dug into my hip. I thought about climbing again and knew I wouldn't. I listened. The rustle stayed steady. He was there and not hurrying. He did not tire. The twine knots kept showing up. If I broke one off, I found another 2 rows over. Night fell fast. The sky turned dark and emptied out. The corn kept its sound. It never stopped. I walked in the dark with my hands in front of me, touching the leaves. I had a small flashlight, and I kept it off. I didn't want to flash something and see him too close. I talked to myself. "Keep moving," I said. "Just keep moving." My voice was rough. It felt like I had not used it in days. After a while, I heard another set of steps that were not mine. Not the steady follow. These were quick and then careful. I gripped the sickle. "Who's there?" I said, and the words fell thin. A figure separated from the rows ahead and raised both hands. Hey, easy," he said. It was a man. He sounded tired. "I'm like you. Lost." He came closer so I could see his face. He had a beard grown out and a cap pulled low. He had a pack. He held a bottle and shook it. "Water? Water?" I took it and watched him. The water was warm but real. It tasted like metal and old plastic. I handed it back. "Thanks." "I'm Mike," he said. "Been walking all day. Maybe longer." Couldn't tell. "Evan," I said, and the name felt like something I had to say out loud to keep it true. It shivered in the air and died with the rustle. He stood close so we were shoulder to shoulder and looked back down the row behind me. "You got him too," he said. His voice dropped. "The mask." I nodded. "From the first mile." Mike looked past me a while, like he was trying to see how far back the rustle was. "We should go together," he said. "You move, I move. He stays the same. Maybe he doesn't like two." I didn't believe that. It sounded like a thing said to fill the space, but the pull in my chest liked the idea of someone there. I could hand off a bottle. I could sleep a little while someone watched. "Okay," I said. "We go together." We walked. We talked little. We kept our voices low. He told me he had come in from the other side, if there even was another side. He said he saw scarecrows and thought they were people until he got close. I told him about the silo. He breathed through his nose and shook his head. We stepped over another set of boot prints. They matched mine. I got down on my knees and pressed my boot into the dust. It fit the gouge and the scuff. I looked at Mike's boots. The pattern on his was different, long bars, not the little squares like mine. But the prints in the path had my squares. They walked ahead of me and they walked behind. It made my neck crawl. "See this?" I said. He squatted and rubbed his thumb over the heel mark. "Yeah," he said. "I seen those too." "Ooh, why mine?" "Why mine?" He didn't answer that. He stood and scanned the rows. His eyes looked dull and dead for a second, then he blinked it away. We moved on. In the middle of the night, we found an irrigation shack. It was a low tin thing on a slab. A door hung open on one hinge. Hoses lay around like dead snakes. The smell of dirt was heavy and wet in there. The air bit the back of my throat. "We could rest in there," Mike said. "Just a minute. Catch breath." I didn't want to go into a box, but my legs shook. "Okay," I said. "We block it." We pushed a coil of hose against the door. We shoved a metal drum under the handle. We dragged a board and braced it against the slab. It felt like something kids would do, dumb and loud. Then it was us. The inside had a little square window high up. I turned on my flashlight, quick to see. The beam slid over a wall with gauges that didn't move, a rack with broken tools, and a corner with a pile of twine. The knots on the pile were the same as on the stalks, tight and small. I looked away from them. I didn't like them. The light hit something white by the board and I flinched. It was only a piece of a mask, a shard, curved and sharp at the edge like broken shell. I didn't touch it. I clicked the light off and my hand shook. "Keep it off," Mike said. He sat with his back to the door and his legs out. I sat against the opposite wall, the sickle across my lap. My eyes adjusted to the dark, and the square of the window was a darker dark. We breathed. The rustle of corn outside was a steady fence of sound. It pressed all the way up to the shack walls. The tin ticked and settled. I put my head back but did not sleep. I felt the pull in my chest cheapen when I was not moving. It made me sick. I swallowed air and it hurt. After a while, the door shifted a little. The drum creaked. Mike tensed. He lifted his head and held his breath. I leaned forward. The door tugged again. It sounded like a soft hand on rough metal. Then there was a slow push and the board strained. The twine pile in the corner looked the same. The window square stayed black. The door pressed harder. The boards scraped on the floor. Mike grunted and pressed his back into it. "Hey," he hissed. "Help me." I slid forward and braced the sickle against the floor and the board, and it bit wood and stuck. The door pushed. The rustle outside grew louder. It was close. It was all around. The board bent. The metal drum rolled a little and clanged. I wanted to scream. The tin walls jittered. The bolts buzzed. I sucked in air and tasted old water and dirt. The push stopped. The rustle dropped back to its normal. I didn't move. Mike didn't move. We waited, both of us not breathing right. Then something scraped the window. A gloved hand? Fingernails? No sound like skin. It was a hard tap. I had the flashlight in my fist and clicked it on without thinking. The beam jumped up and hit the window square. He was there. The mask filled the glass inches from my light. The blank eye holes ate the light. They were dead and deep. The edges of the mask had chips and cracks. The white curved surface reflected a thin line of my beam. He was so close I could have put my finger up and touched the pane and felt his breath if he breathed, but he didn't. He didn't fog the glass. The line of my light cut across the blank eye holes and slid off the curve and hit nothing. Then the hand came up on the sill. Long fingers, dry. They pressed on the metal lip. I fumbled the light off and threw it into the pile of twine. "Go," I said. My voice broke. The board popped off the handle. The door jumped open an inch. Air moved in. It smelled like dirt and old leaves. Mike slammed it with his shoulder and slid sideways. "Back," he said. "Back door." There was no back door. He meant the sheet of tin in the corner. We put our palms under it and shoved. The screws gave. The tin peeled up with a screech. I went first on my belly and slid under the wall and into the rows. Dirt filled my mouth. The rustle hit my ears like a wave. Mike shoved my pack after me and then crawled. The door behind us flew open. It made a big sound, and then a quiet one like footsteps on concrete. I did not look back. I grabbed the sickle and the pack and crawled fast. I felt a tug at my heel and snapped my leg away so quick my thigh cramped. Leaves slapped my face. Hush, 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 all around. We ran until the shack was gone. We ran until our chests hurt. We fell down in a row break and lay there with our arms out. I wanted to cry and couldn't. My eyes burned. The dirt stuck to my teeth. The rustle eased back to that steady thing. I sat and pulled my pack between my knees. It had come open. I pushed my hand in. There was a roll of twine. I had not packed twine. I pulled it out. It was the same brown fiber as the knots on the stalks. It had a piece of broken mask wedged under the roll, white and curved and sharp. It cut my thumb, and the blood was bright and dark right away. I looked at Mike. He watched me. "Where did this come from?" I said. My voice was flat. I felt a heat in my face. He shrugged and looked away. "Picked up stuff," he said. "In case we needed to tie something. Doesn't matter." "Why a piece of the mask?" I held it with 2 fingers and shook it. The shard clicked against the twine and sounded like teeth. The blank eye holes came back to my mind and made my stomach turn. "Why would you keep this?" He opened his mouth and closed it. He stood and started walking again. "We should keep moving," he said. "Day will come. We can see more then." He didn't look at me. I let the shard drop into the dirt. I didn't pick it back up. I wound the twine and put it in my pack without thinking. It felt like the thing you do when you don't want something to be loose. It was a mistake. I know now. We moved into the morning. The sun came up and we turned our caps around. The rustle stayed with us. Sometimes it moved from one side to the other. Sometimes it came close and then fell back. We saw more scarecrows. One had a jacket like mine, but faded to nothing. One had a hat like Mike's. There were names carved into some of the posts. I didn't read them. I didn't want names with me. By midday, we stumbled onto a gravel road. It cut through the corn. It was narrow and rutted and white with dust. Distant lights showed straight ahead, small and steady. A town, I thought. It was the first straight line I had seen in a long time. "There," Mike said, and he laughed once, raw and hard. "We follow it." We stepped onto the gravel. Our boots slid. The stones made noise. The rustle of corn faded a little, just a little, like the rows did not like the road. I took that as a good thing. We walked fast. The lights stayed there. They were so far, I couldn't tell if they moved. We walked for hours. The sun went down. The lights got bigger, maybe. The rustle came back up to the edges. We didn't talk. The road bent left, then right, then straight. We passed a broken sign with nothing on it. We passed a small pile of stones where someone had sat. We passed a scarecrow right at the edge. It had twine on both wrists. The head had sunk. The sickle on its post flashed in the last light. I put my hand on the blade as we went and left skin on the rust. It was real. It was there. We kept on. The lights grew to the size of my fingernail. I could almost make out poles and lines. I smiled without meaning to. My face hurt when I did it. Then the road kinked and straightened. The gravel had a new set of prints. I looked down and saw my squares again. I saw the heel gouge. I saw the scuff from the silo ladder when I had scraped my boot. The prints ran ahead of us. My stomach dropped. I stopped. Mike walked 2 steps and stopped too. He stared at the ground. "Don't," he said. "Don't look." I looked up. The lights were not where I thought. The road ahead shifted like a trick. The corn on both sides leaned in. We walked another 10 minutes, and the lights were the same size. Then the scarecrow with the twine on both wrists stood again on the shoulder. The hat leaned the same way. The sickle winked in the dusk. We had looped. The gravel went where it wanted. I cursed and kicked the stones. Pain shot up my toes. I breathed dirt. I wanted to go back and couldn't. The pull in my chest now didn't push me to the lights. It pushed me back into the rows. It made me turn off the road. I did not even know I had left the road until the soft ground took my foot. "Evan," Mike said, "there's a gap I saw. A break. It's not far. I think it's a way through. We just have to get to it before dark." "It is dark," I said. My voice sounded dead. The rustle got loud on my left and right, like the rows were closing my ears. I don't have anything left. "You have enough," he said. He came close and took my arm. His hand was cold. He steered me. "Come on!" I went. I didn't like that he had touched me. I could have pulled away. I didn't. The rows bent into a shape ahead. It wasn't a field path. It was a circle where someone had cleared the stalks to stubs. The dirt inside had been tamped hard. Twine ran around in the stalks at chest height, knots every few feet. The knots were neat and old. Some were new. The smell of dirt was strong. It was open to the sky. I saw no houses, no roads. Just the circle and rows and the dark above. "We go in," Mike said. "Why?" I said. My throat was tight. The rustle around the circle was soft and even. "What is this?" "A safe place," he said, and the words came out easy like he had said them before. "Just for a minute. He can't come in where the twine binds. He doesn't like knots." I didn't believe him, but the pull in my chest let me step inside. It relieved a little. It was like when you set down something heavy. My shoulders dropped. I put my pack down. I didn't sit. I wanted to sit. My legs shook. Mike stood just outside. He watched the rows and then looked at me. His face had gone hard. He did not step in. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You feel it?" he said. "It's better." "You're not coming in," I said. He shook his head. "No," he said. He scratched the back of his hand like it itched. The skin there was raw with little lines. I carried it as long as I could. "It's yours now. I'm sorry." "What?" I said. My voice cracked. The rustle of corn swelled up and down like wind, but there was no wind. The twine knots on the stalks around the circle looked tighter than before. The loops had drawn down. The ground under my boots felt sticky. "You know." He looked away, at the rows behind me. He didn't want to see my face. You felt it the first mile. It finds a man, makes him walk. He can hand it off. It needs someone to put on the mask. It needs a wearer. I thought I could make it past this field, but there's no past. There's only the next man. He sighed, and it sounded like he was letting go of something heavy. You held up better than most. I took a step to the edge and hit a wall I couldn't see. It wasn't hard. It was the feeling you get around a fence you don't want to cross. My body stopped. My arms went out and felt only air. The twine knots on the stalks were level with my chest, and they seemed to pull. They weren't moving, but I felt them. "Mike," I said, "don't do this." "I can't carry it anymore," he said. "I did my part. You'll do yours. Then someone else." He took his cap off and wiped his head and put the cap back on. He looked thinner. He looked younger. He looked like he had slept. He walked to a spot on the circle and picked at a knot. It slid loose under his fingers and then tightened again. He clicked his tongue like he was working a tricky bit. He had done this before. He reached into his pack and took out the roll of twine, and my stomach turned. He hadn't just picked it up. He had carried it on purpose. "Mike," I said louder. The rustle answered. It came close. It came right up to the circle and stayed there. Something moved between the rows. The stalks bent and then stood. He stepped out of the rows and into the edge of the circle and stood very straight. The Wanderer's mask faced me. The blank eye holes took all the light from the sky. He came forward slow. He did not need to hurry. He was inside before I could move. My legs wouldn't listen. The twine knots around the circle held me. I felt the pull in my chest twist and root. It hurt. It wasn't like a hand. It was a cord. Mike came behind me and took my wrists. His hands had dirt on them. He wound twine around my arms. He was methodical. He tied the same tight, small knots I had seen on the stalks. "Don't," I said. It sounded like a child. He tied me to the place. He did not answer me. His breath was in my ear and it smelled like stale water and the field. The masked wanderer stopped an arm's length from me. The blank eye holes were level with my face. He raised his hand and touched my chest and pressed, and the pull in me went taut. There was a sound like the corn rubbing together but inside my bones. I gagged. My eyes watered. He reached to his face. He set his fingers on the edge of the mask. He did not pull it off. He pushed it forward and it came away from him like it wasn't attached to anything. There was nothing under it but dark. Not skin, not bone, just dark. Mike held my head. "Hold still," he said. He was gentle when he said it. He sounded sorry. "Don't fight. It'll just take longer." I fought anyway. I jerked my shoulders and the twine cut my skin. My wrists bled and the blood felt hot for a second and then cold. I swung the sickle with my free hand and hit the mask edge. The rusted blade snagged and skated and slipped off. A spark died in the dark. The Wanderer didn't care. He stood very close. The mask turned in his hands and then his hands were under my chin. He put the mask on me. It was smooth and cold and then warm. It was heavy. It fit my face without fitting. It pressed on my cheekbones and my forehead and my nose. I tried to suck air and the inside smelled like dirt, like the field, like old leaves. The smell was my whole head. The blank eye holes were my eyes now. I saw the world around the black. The edges of the mask were there, and I blinked and my eyelashes brushed the inside. It scratched. Dry. The corn rustled against the outside, and then against the inside too. The sound was inside the mask. The twine on my arms loosened and fell. The circle let me go. I felt the pull in my chest change. It moved away from my heart and up into my face. It wasn't a cord anymore. It was my eyes. It was my steps. I didn't want it. I tried to take the mask off. My hands moved slow like someone else's. They touched the edge and slid. There was no edge. It had no seam now. It was me. Mike watched. He had his hands at his sides. He took a step back out of the circle. His face relaxed in a way I hated. He was free. The rustle of corn around him softened and slid past. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice had some water in it now, but not enough. He put his hand on my shoulder, then took it off like he was afraid the mask would jump to him again. "You walk now," he said. "You follow. You wait for the next one." He didn't look at my face. He looked at the blank eye holes, and that meant he did look at my face. He swallowed. "Don't let it be a kid." He stepped into the rows and was gone. The rustle went with him. It stayed with me too. It was close and constant. It was inside the mask. I took a step. The scuffed boot prints in the dirt matched mine because they were mine. The scarecrow at the edge of the circle leaned. The sickle was heavy in my hand. The twine knots on the stalks were neat and tight. The smell of dirt filled the mask and stuck to the back of my throat. I wanted to scream and could not. I took another step because the curse had moved to where I could not reach it. It had moved to the blank. It had become the blank. I followed the next man's path without seeing him yet, level with the rows, with the dry rasp of corn against the inside of the mask. I hope you liked this one, and if you did, prove it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you come back for more. It takes a second, and it really keeps this channel breathing. There's another story waiting. You should probably watch it before the lights flicker again. See you in the next one.